So last month I took a 3-week solo trip to Europe, and here's how it went. Hey, I'm Marcie Billen. I'm a small business owner, a real estate team owner, and of course I have anxiety. I live in Norman, Oklahoma. If you're in the same boat as me, being a small business owner with anxiety, then you know that life's not always easy, right? I do love being my own boss, and part of the reason is because I get to travel and explore the world on my schedule. So just a few weeks ago, I went on this 3-week solo trip in Europe. It was part of what I wanted to do for myself. And during that time, I spent 1 week walking the last 113 kilometers or the last 70 miles of the Camino de Santiago in northern Spain. And that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. This channel is by no means a travel channel. This is a small business channel, and I talk about having a small business and having anxiety. And of course, being a realtor with all of that going on. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button to follow along. So if you don't know, the Camino de Santiago is a pilgrimage that has several different routes that you can take, and they all end in Santiago de Compostela in Galicia in northern Spain. You can choose to do more of this pilgrimage, of this Camino, than just the last 113 kilometers, but you have to do the last 100 kilometers to be considered a pilgrim. Plus, to do more than that takes a very long time, but lots of people are on the trail for more than a month. So during my time on the Camino, I was with a group of 16 other people, and each day, so for 6 days total, we walked anywhere between 8 and 14 miles a day. So while we were walking, of course, we spent time talking to each other, listening to music, walking in silence, listening to books, whatever we wanted to do to pass that time. One book in particular that I finished on the trail was The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, which was really fitting. It's a book about doing hard things. So here are 5 key takeaways that I got from the Camino de Santiago. Being immersed in nature for an extended period of time made me feel different, like really different. It was nice. At home, everything is sanitized and clean, and we go from like one building that's heated or air conditioned to another building that's heated or air conditioned, especially after a long winter. And on the trail, it's just nothing's ever comfortable. Like, you're never fully comfortable. You have to do things in order to make yourself comfortable, to make it something that you can handle along the way. Honestly, it gets kind of gross too, because you're like out in nature and you get really dirty fast. It's not the greatest. Of course, it wasn't, the heat of summer whenever I was walking it. It was April, so that helped a lot. We didn't have to wake up early and then hit the trail at 7 a.m. We usually left anywhere between 9 and 9:30 in the morning. There was rain, of course, on the trail. And so it just kind of always felt, grody. But eventually you get used to it. And one thing I really liked about being in nature for this amount of time is sometimes at home, especially when I'm working a lot, I feel like technology sort of dictates the rhythm of my own life. And technology moves very quickly. And so then I tend to move very quickly. So in nature, you kind of get into this rhythm where, nature has to dictate your rhythm because there's nothing else that's going on. The beat that you hear is literally the beat of your own feet walking on the gravel or the pavement or the trail or whatever. It's kind of this slower hum that you feel underneath your feet, and you sort of relax into it. A lot of the time on the trail, I had no idea what time it was because all I had to do was walk. So the longer I was in that situation, the more relaxed into nature I became. And here at home in Oklahoma, I do make an effort to spend time out in nature, but it's not 6 days at a time like it was in Galicia. So that's just something that the Camino made abundantly clear to me, that I need to be really intentional about spending time in nature. So I was one of the slowest walkers in my group, but it really didn't matter at the end of the day because we were all going to the same location, right? So if I got to the hotel, our next hotel, because that's how we were walking, was from one hotel to the next along the trail. We never got into a car. Our bags did, of course. Our bags were transported for us, and we just carried day packs on our back. But ultimately, I didn't need to go the same speed as everybody else, because we all were going to the same point at the end of the day. So sometimes in business, I get really anxious because it feels like other people are moving faster than I am. And I feel like I'm gonna get behind. But what does that even mean? What is behind? I always, of course, go back to the question of what is time? Because it's a made up construct and something that we just believe in. arbitrarily, but like, why should I compare myself to other people if I'm going the pace that is healthy for me and that makes me happy? So this was one of the things I was really focusing on during the Camino. One of the things I kept repeating to myself is slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's something that we hear a lot in our company, and it makes so much sense because I would, be going along at a slow pace, and like other people in my group were going faster than me, sure, but eventually they would stop for a coffee and I would catch up to them pretty quickly because I was moving at a very steady pace along the trail. So slow is smooth, and smooth does end up being fast. Of course, I love to compare myself to other people though, but ultimately their timing and their success really doesn't have very much to do with my own. So Michael Easter's book, The Comfort Crisis, talks a lot about distractions and if distractions are useful, if we need distractions, what they do to us mentally and sometimes even physically. And mostly, of course, we're talking about the distraction of technology or the distraction of the phone. Of course, it was always really nice to have the distraction of talking to my fellow pilgrims, the people in my group along the trail. That to me is a very healthy distraction, that sort of person-to-person reaction. And we got to talk about a lot of really interesting things together, especially since we were all pretty much from different countries. But of course, it was also really nice to just walk in silence. And I did that a fair bit as well, without distraction. There were so many moments where, like hours, where I would just look at my feet or look at the trees around me or the landscape and just focus on getting to the next point, which might have been the next footfall or might have been the next Camino marker along the trail. That was what was most important to me in those instances. It kind of shocked me that I didn't really feel lonely or bored during those times. I felt pretty relaxed and pretty happy with where I was in that moment. So one of the sensations that I kind of went into most days wanting to experience was this thing called unfocused mode. And Michael Easter talks about this in his book. Unfocused mode, this is what he says about it. Unfocused mode occurs when we're not paying attention. It's inward mind wandering, a rest state that restores and rebuilds the resources needed to work better and more efficiently in the focused state. Time in unfocused mode is critical to getting shit done. Tap into creativity, process complicated information, and more. Honestly, getting into that unfocused mode is kind of scary because you have to let go of anxiety and pain and fear and even pleasure to get to this mode. So instead of relying on technology to give me rushes of dopamine and that distraction that my body so desperately craves, I ended up leaning into this sort of emptiness in the silence and the solitude. On the Camino, I really felt connected to the world around me or to the landscape that I traveled in. One of the reasons that I often really hate doing guided tours is because tourists in general tend to move very quickly. They want to see a bunch of things. There's cameras, there's a lot of quick movements, oftentimes some complaining along with that. And so walking and being a part of this natural hum of nature, and being on a trail where your only desire, like your only goal is to literally finish the Camino, this means that, you kind of fall into being a part of the landscape that you're walking in. So in the week that we were on the Camino, we were walking by villages and houses, farmhouses, fields with cows in them, barns with chickens and all of this stuff. We were seeing people in their daily lives as well, because this is not in the middle of the wilderness, it's in the middle of Galicia. And so you're walking by people's actual lives, and just for a moment, you get to pass by their life and their land and what they experience every day and experience just a tiny bit of that just for yourself. That's part of what makes time slow down so much, because everything is very, very foreign. It's like those moments could really swallow you whole, and you are just entrenched in the idea of where you were and being in that specific place at that specific time. These experiences are so special because on the Camino, you're not focused on being a tourist or a photographer or working or anything. You're only focused on walking the Camino, on finishing it. And there are no shortcuts to walking the Camino. You have to do 100 kilometers. That's it. That's the whole goal. So the way that they track this so that you don't cheat is that along the way, you have this passport. So this is what it looks like. And each day you get stamps. and you have to have 2 stamps a day and they have to be dated at the bottom. And so any cafe that we pass by, or like any church that we pass by or anything, or any random person could have a stamp, and we would stamp our book. And then at the end, our tour guide actually took it to, the pilgrimage office, I guess, and then they give us a certificate. So I have a certificate that says that I finished the Camino. Yay. So then there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts that you can take on the Camino. And so you have to be present in the moment and just do the activity that you committed to doing, which is walking literally 70 miles. So walking the Camino really taught me to be more in tune with my emotions, and not always the fun emotions that we have, right? The Camino doesn't give you much of a choice but to think about how you're feeling in the present moment, because if you're not distracting yourself with anything, then you're just feeling everything that's coming through your body. One of the main emotions that I ended up leaning into was pain, and pain is also a sensation in the body, but for me it's also an emotion. And so one of the things that happened was my feet got really, really sore. I did get really bad blisters, but I also had just really sore feet in general. And it kind of felt like I was walking on pointy pebbles after my feet had been terribly bruised. My last 10 miles were sort of like that for me. I just tried to feel it, tried to be present with the pain in that certain moment, and I'm hoping that it made me a little bit stronger. I have day-by-day videos of the Camino as I'm walking, and you'll find that link here. It's a playlist, and they're minute-long videos, so it won't take you too long to get through them if you want to see what life was like day to day as we were walking on the trail. Overall, the Camino was really one of the hardest things that I've ever done. It taught me a lot about myself and my business, and the little steps that I need to take in order to move forward in a healthy way. And it was so nice to have this long break from my business, this 19-day break from doing my normal daily tasks. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.